meeting of council is called to order at 6:05 on July 28th, 2014. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Safrati.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Brownlee.
Here.
Trojansky.
Here.
Ag.
Here.
Albers.
Here. May I have a motion to suspend the regular council meeting agenda and proceed with only the legislation?
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Adams.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Safrati.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Brownlee.
Present.
Trojansky.
Yes.
Ag.
Yes. We have several items on the agenda, several with third readings, so hopefully you've had all of your questions and issues answered, and we will be moving on the third reading for ordinance 2014-60 first. Go ahead. Mayor, is Irene planning on coming this evening?
Yes. You need her?
I don't think so. I don't think so, unless she had more information for it. Okay. She was adjusting the other funds, Kathy's thing. Here she is. You're first on the legislation. Irene, are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay.
What?
The general fund I put back on because we had suggested some changes from the last meeting, and those changes were basically in the recovery item for the council. On page 9, 1H. So that was moved from the 2015 column over to the 2016 column. And the pages behind are the special revenues funds that the state had identified in terms of the fiscal watch. And I think the first one is the COPS. It's behind page 9. These are the new pages. And I think that I'm not really sure why they included the COPS because I didn't see that they had a deficit. But I put it in here because they had it on the list. The next one is street lighting. And starting with 2014, 2011, 12, and 13 are actuals. And 2014 starts the forecast. So the amount from the property taxes will be received through the levy And then the 57,000, those are dollars that come either through the CAT fund or some other miscellaneous funds that we received. And I projected that to be flat throughout the next 4 or 5 years. And like I say, it may change depending on the different revenues that may come in. Also, the change here is in terms of the utilities. Last time we had discussed that the street lighting fund, which it still does. I was meeting with the auditors this morning, and they had, done a review for 2013. So they found some additional expenses that were not originally included on our report, so I included those. So the number is $420,000, and I think we were projecting like about $250 or so. But there was a couple of months that had not been included. So that number is different than what you had seen in your budget. And then the others are basically repairs. A lot of those are the signal repairs that you will see for the $15,000. So we're projecting that the expenses will be $435,000, which leaves an excess of $133,000 that has to be covered by the general fund. So that will be transferred in from the general fund to bring that to zero. The next page is the police services levy fund. And again, the property taxes line is from the levy, and it was projected flat through 17. It was not projected as property taxes for 18 because it will go back on the ballot in 17. And so you see in 18 at the bottom is put as a recovery item because that has to be voted on. Is that clear to everybody? Okay. So the actual revenues is being projected for 18 is the 75,000, and then the 488,101 would have to be approved in 2017 after the 5 years up. You'll notice also that the expenses went up. In 2014, I was budgeting to cover the $200,000 deficit. What had happened in some of the prior years, if you look at the expenses for salaries, you see that it's almost tripled, and it exceeded the amount that was coming in from the levy. So in order to right that and balance it, in 2014, we're charging less to this particular fund, which means that there is more being charged to the police fund and the general fund, but that was already reflected in our report prior. 2015 and out is projected that we'll be able then to charge the appropriate amount that we were receiving from the levy. So that's why the expenses went up a couple $100,000. It's the same for the fire levy. And the ambulance building, which is behind that, again, revenue is projected flat, and it's flat based on what we're anticipating for 2014. And you'll see the corresponding expenses below. The police miscellaneous expenses, non-personnel expenses, the $270,000. And the fire includes some salaries and wages for some of the paramedics to be in charge of that fund. So that's why the fire expenses are a little more than the, I'm sorry, not the paramedics. What we have here is the secretary. The $44,000 is for the secretary to be in charge of this fund. And so in terms of the police budget in this fund, the corresponding numbers is like the 278,772 and the 269,684. And again, it was budgeted a little less because we were covering, well, there was a deficit that came in from 2012 that we had to balance out in 2013. The next one is the capital improvement, and this is one of those real variable type of funds because as the projects come, and actually, we don't really know what the engineer may come up with for the rest of the next 4 or 5 years. So basically what you see here is at the 2014 level. That could be more, it could be less. As you look at the prior years from 11, 12, and 13, as you can see, it was over $750,000. But at this time, we're just reporting what we have. And like I say, it could change as the engineer brings in different projects. And the next fund is the tree deposits fund. That's the name of the fund, but that's where the grass cutting. And so basically, again, we're looking at the monies that's coming in from the grass cutting and projecting out what the contracts will be for this year. So those are the special revenue funds that we had to reconcile per the fiscal watch. They had caught those up, put those in the fiscal watch plan. And again, the ones you have here, the ones that we're watching, there could be potential deficits. So you don't have all the funds here, so that's not what this report is. So these are all the numbers that I have to present for this. The only thing left to do is to write a summary based on these numbers, and then, it'll be complete to write up the summary. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Is there, and we anticipate passing this tonight, hopefully.
I would hope so. I mean, these numbers hopefully won't move anymore unless there's something that you all see. But, we're getting near that hour where we really need to lock in the numbers, and so I would write the summary based on these numbers.
And that summary will be available to us as well as soon as you have it.
My hope is that I, write it in the next day or so. And I do apologize, the last 4 days that I was out of the city, so I didn't have a chance to work on this as I would have normally. And then also, we have to finish, today we finished the gap audit, which took up a lot of time this morning. And the financial statement, ZUPCA, is also coming in because they have to finish up this month or within the next month. So I've been dividing my time amongst these 3 projects so that we can get them all accomplished.
Okay. Do you have a comment, Mr. Chairman?
I was waiting for you to put it on the floor before I said anything.
Okay, usually if it was a third reading, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time with the discussion, but if you have questions and I can answer, you're more than welcome. Or comment.
Seeing that we just got some numbers, I think a comment would be in order here. But my only comment is the numbers now that you have put together, using these projections, where do you see us breaking even or not having a deficit?
If you look on page 8 of this general fund report,
Okay.
okay, so on page 8, where you have the fund balance at the end of the year, and like in 16, you see the 118,000. Okay.
Okay, that's in the plan. Okay.
Okay. But also, if you look up middle of the page where it says excess of revenues over expenses. So basically, what this is doing is looking at that particular year, looking vertical at the year, And so you can see in 2015, we're starting to have a surplus revenue over expenses. And of course, you have to take into consideration the transfers and the prior year balance. So that's why 15, which is next year, we still may see a fund deficit at the end of the year. Now, if you flip to page 9, with the projected recovery items, with the things that we plan to do, like the levies and what have you, and you can see in 2015, if all of this works out, we have a 3.8 surplus. But that's taking into consideration the recovery plan items, which are the levies that will go on the balance and the cameras and, other things that you can see here. I know you weren't here when we went through these the other day, but there's changes in plans such as the health care and of course the cameras and the levies that will go on the ballot. So if all of those work out, then we will have a 3.8 million surplus. But if we don't, and you look back on page 8, then it'll be 2016 when you can say pretty much the city is with 118,000. That'll be the surplus without any of these items that we are planning, like the levies and what have you. But hopefully, we're looking forward to the recovery plan items. So that'll square us up at 15.
Very good, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Agee.
On page 99,
Yes.
1G, 2015.
1G, the police and fire.
2015.
Oh, yes.
Okay. On 723, 1G was 55.
Okay.
So did the numbers switch or something?
Unless somehow it got interchanged with the council, and that may have been the change I had to make.
Yeah, because council was 45.
Right, so that needs to be changed, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, those two got transposed, thank you.
Good eye.
Yeah, those were transposed, so I'll make that correction.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
In the special funds, the last one you mentioned was the tree cutting,
Yes.
tree deposits, or the grass cutting. We have at the top revenues of 200,000. For 2012 and 13, there was 0 for revenues, and now we're expecting 200,000 moving forward. Why is that?
It's based on the activity now of what we're receiving. I mean, when we look at the revenue that's coming in, then also some of the assessments that's been placed. That's how we get to this number.
Is it something new that's happening now that caused, because I mean there was none 2 years prior. I see 132,011. What was it that changed between this year, or last year and this year?
That I can't answer. When we get the audit, we'll be able to tell. I did not go back to review the past audits. I mean, in terms of this, I was looking at the current activity, the trends for now.
So how was it you figured the 200,000?
Based on the current revenue that we've been receiving.
Yeah, so extrapolating it out through the rest of the year.
Do we have any other comments or concerns?
Madam President,
Go ahead, Alex.
just for clarification, we passed this tonight, and it's rejected by the state. It comes back to us, and we have 30 days to submit another plan to send back down. Is that correct?
Yes, we have 30 days from the 8th. This is due August the 8th. So that's when our clock starts ticking. So that's why I'm anxious to get this down to them hopefully this week, and that'll give them even a few days to start reviewing this, to make whatever comments that they have. And they will have some because, they look at things a little different. So I'm sure they will add a twist, or when I write up the summary, they may want to change some of the wordings or whatever. I mean, we won't know until it actually goes. But in terms of this document, the change that I made is based on Councilwoman AG's switching those lines. They were transposed when I went and made the change. And otherwise, this is it to the best of my knowledge. So it'll go to them and they will put their input. And keep in mind, what may change some of this is that we're in the process of the audits. Like I said, like this morning when I was speaking with the young lady, and they're doing like an actual audit. So they're seeing things in 2013 that I didn't see because they go back to 12 and come forward. So, you know, she had a little input and so, and then there'll be a different set of eyes when it goes to the state. The young ladies that presented here, Nita Hendricks, Laura Brown, and Eunice Smith, will review this. And so, because they're constant, I mean, every day we're sending them documents, so they're compiling their own numbers and what have you. I mean, this is ongoing. They're not here in the office, but they're very active. They're busy compiling their numbers from our documents. And so based on, you know, payables and receivables and whatever's outstanding for 2013, they may end up starting in 2014 with a different balance than what we use in here from the financial statements from the office. So that could change it. But my hope is that it won't. That's why I was trying to speak with them, use some of their numbers to get as up to date as possible.
Irene, what's the time lag between when they receive it and when they report back?
You know, it varies. One thing I know is that they're very busy. They are very busy. So that will have a lot to do with it, but only because we've been having ongoing dialogue almost every day. And they're sort of expecting this. My hope is that they will not wait until the 30th day to send this back to us. I mean, I would expect them to send it back within a week or so. So that will give us time, otherwise it'll eat up to 30 days, you know. So I don't know if they start counting their 30 days from the day they send it back or from the 8th, but I know it won't be before the 8th. So we'll have at least until September the 8th, at least, you know, to get this in.
Another comment, Angela.
Go ahead, Alex.
If it is rejected and it comes back, the mayor, yourself, my suggestion, only mine, that mayor, yourself, and council gets together for meetings to discuss changes and what we think we should do for the recovery plan, and bring our ideas forward so that we can have a meaningful discussion on our ideas and to get figures to see, to bring it down. Would that be possible or into the plan, your plan?
But sure, I mean, but the mayor is here. And
Mayor's-
yeah.
I heard every word you said, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we're going to have to move on making a decision, and of
Madam
course,
Chair,
yes?
good question. You mentioned multiple sections of the plan. What are all of the different sections that you prepared? We have these forecasts for the different funds, and this, what's this part here that you gave us?
That's basically how we will monitor this. It talks about the budget and how we plan to monitor these numbers, the timeline for these numbers, and who will be involved in the number preparation. So it's basically, this plan is budget driven, because actually all of these are budgets that's projected out for 5 years or so. And so basically the document you're referring to, the recovery plan document, basically speaks to that in terms of the timelines that we discussed last time, or when different documents should be prepared and who should participate in them. And
What other parts will be prepared other than what we have, these?
the
this here and
summary,
these here?
the summary,
That'll be a third piece.
which would expound upon the recovery plan. If you recall, there was a piece in your sample plans that talked about when these different recovery items will start and when they will end. That ongoing, continuing, if you can recall that, if you look in the beginning of, say, the Garfield Heights or one of those plans. So basically, it's just summarizing and putting numbers and, some, just the narrative, thank you, to that 1 through G or H is at the bottom, and how we plan to accomplish it when it starts, but it's in written narrative. These are just bullet points for the recovery plan.
So we have 3 different sections, we have 2, but the third one, the summary, you have yet to prepare that.
Right, and be prepared again, like from these recovery plan items.
Here was the draft.
I don't think, well, the draft was in the copies that were sent. Yeah, but not that. It was sent in the draft plans that you received. I have not given you a draft. But if you look at one of the other plans, you will see.
No idea.